Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's a pleasure, as always. In other words, many of you have come to the opening dinner for, I don't know, are now going on 4 or 5 years of holding these dinners. So I want to thank you all for coming to Digital Hollywood, for supporting these events, and being with us. Many of you are speakers. So first, let's have a hand for all the speakers in this room. Thank you to all the speakers who have been so supportive of Digital Hollywood, your expertise, your brilliance. You know who you are. It's wonderful to be with you at each of our shows, and you know I keep you all busy by going to Las Vegas and to New York, Los Angeles. Oh, thank you. Well, tonight we have something very special. We put together a program which is new. It's unique to Digital Hollywood. It is actually unique to most any event or conference. The idea of bringing Hollywood and space together, for me, was a natural continuation. About 2 or 3 years ago, we introduced virtual reality at Digital Hollywood. And the production companies who were involved in virtual reality were also involved in producing the major motion pictures that we've all basically grown up with, which gave us a viewpoint on what our lives are all about, and that had to do with going into space and understanding what the future could look like. So bringing those two pieces, the future together with the technology, with the creative community, that was what Digital Hollywood was all about. So I want to say this won't be the only time. Hollywood in Space is going to become another feature at Digital Hollywood, just as VR. We're moving all of these ideas forward, and I want to thank those people who are on those panels today and tomorrow, having to do with Hollywood in Space, coming from JPL, coming from different actual space industries. We're going to do more. I'm very excited by it. So first, let's get on with the show. So first I want to introduce Marty Perlmutter, who is going to introduce and give framework to the evening event. So Marty, please come up.
Well, I don't know what your table conversation was, but my people were talking about the 20th anniversary of Pathfinder's landing and the amount of time it takes at the speed of light to get a signal to Mars and back, and, you know, normal dinner conversation. It's an extraordinary panel, but I want to do a little history first. Victor and I met in, I think it was 1985. In the second year that Victor did a trade show conference on space industrialization. Let's talk about Back to the Future. And I have with me tonight my 40-year-old script that I began in 1977. That's a space opera. Hey, it's Hollywood, right? Everybody's got a script. So for both of us, this is a return to form. I won't talk about politics tonight because there ain't no need, but I've been looking at a lot of old journals. And something that struck me, a couple of years ago, Tom Friedman gathered a bunch of smarty pantses and they talked about the state of things in a brighter time. And somebody said, and I thought this was really brilliant, that the operating system, if you will, of our society, our American society, was crystallized in the 1940s and 50s. The so-called administrative state, the state with bureaucracies, which grew up in the Depression and then really got big in World War II, took shape in a form that advantaged all of us in the 1950s. And it peaked in its yield to common folk and in its capacity for productivity in the 1960s. And that took the form of the space program. The space program came at a time of apparent post-scarcity, and we blasted off for the moon. And we thought everything was possible. And we got what some of us still think is the best space movie in 1968, the one that first respected the silence of space and that really went to lengths to try to simulate the effects of minimalized gravity in a space habitation, and that was 2001. And then in the 70s, as scarcity returned and we had a couple of oil shocks and a lot of bad things began to happen. Space investment shrank. And by the 80s, by the late 70s, we had the Space Shuttle, which was supposed to be an inexpensive transportation system to orbit, but proved to be much more expensive and difficult. And space budgets continued to shrink in the 80s, although we did some extraordinary planetary investigation. In the 90s, we had a period of, I told you it wasn't going to be political, but it's true, of sort of pointless prosperity. Everything was safe, everything was good, but what happened to NASA? And the 2000s, we've had nothing but shock. So, tonight, we're going to be gathered with some folks. One of them wrote Apollo 13 and recently released Apollo 8. Everybody remembers what Apollo 8 was? It was a sacred thing, right? Al Gore, when he talks about the origins of his understanding of planetary importance, he points to a picture that was taken that Christmas Eve in 1968, looking back at the Earth. The first time we could see the whole planet. We're going to be with a woman who was sleepless once and then began to talk to extraterrestrials. But she talked to terrestrials as well, and she became a friend of and a popularizer of Carl Sagan. We'll be graced with the president of DreamWorks Film Operation, a guy who was an executive producer on Gravity. And we will hear from a man who does Academy Award-winning special effects. I think I've covered all of us. And we are going to be led by Steven Sklar, whose reality, Steven is a notable cinematographer. He's known throughout Hollywood. But his real contribution to technology is he is one of the people who knows the most about stereoscopy, about 3D. And in VR, we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that the simple fact of having two viewing ports will give you 3D automatically. As Steven may tell us tonight, there's a lot more to it. So Steven is our moderator, and I think it's time to empanel the panel.
No, I'll get that one. I'll get that one. I got that one. Oh, water too good. So, hey, Chris, is your name on the other side of that?